Have you ever heard a piece of advice that sounds so incredibly cliche, you just instantly brush it off? Well, today we are unpacking one of the oldest, most repeated maxims in human history. We're taking the phrase, you become what you think, and we are going to completely demystify it for you. We aren't looking at this as some mystical woo-woo concept. Instead, in this explainer, we're breaking it down through the lens of modern neuroscience and psychology to see exactly how your brain is actively building your reality right this very second. So stick with me, because learning how to literally hack this system is going to completely change the way you view your own mind.
Let's start by anchoring ourselves with these powerful ancient truths. You've got Buddha saying, what you think, you become. And then you have the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius stating, your life is the creation of your thoughts. Even the essayist Ralph Waldo Emerson echoed the exact same sentiment centuries later. Now, what's genuinely fascinating here is that while these great philosophers instinctively knew this thousands of years ago, today's neuroscientists are finally proving how it actually works on a biological level. They're showing us that our external world, our relationships, our career, our health, is directly mirroring our internal mental state.
And that brings us to this absolutely staggering number, 60 to 80,000. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the average number of thoughts a human being has in a single day. But here is the shocking reality that researchers have found. The vast majority of those thoughts are negative. And it gets worse, honestly. Most of them are simply repeating the exact same loops you ran yesterday. You are literally having a 60,000 thought conversation with yourself every single day. If you're constantly telling yourself, I'm not good enough, or I'll never get ahead, you're trapping yourself in a repetitive loop that dictates your future.
Section 1. Thoughts and your reality.
To really understand how those thoughts become our reality, let's think of your mind as a garden and your thoughts as the seeds. Those seeds trigger a very real physical process in your body. When we sit there and entertain fearful, anxious thoughts, the brain literally commands the body to produce cortisol. That's the stress hormone. But when we actively think positive, exciting thoughts, the brain releases dopamine and serotonin. So the absolute crucial point here is this. Your thoughts change your body's chemistry. That chemistry changes how you feel. How you feel dictates the actions you take, and your actions, well, they build your reality. It's a biological chain reaction.
Section 2. Secret of the subconscious.
When we compare your conscious and subconscious minds, it's pretty wild. Your conscious mind, the part of you that is actively focusing on this explainer and making decisions right now, is actually very limited. It can really only focus on one thing at a time. But your subconscious mind? Oh, it is operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether you're awake or asleep. It holds every single memory, every fear, and every habit you have ever formed. But here's the real kicker. 95% of your behavior is controlled by your subconscious. You are running on autopilot almost all day long, driven by a force you barely even notice.
So, where did that 95% programming come from? Well, largely from when we were kids. When you were young, your brain was basically a blank slate. We didn't consciously choose our deepest beliefs. If our environment or the adults around us constantly signaled that money is the root of all evil or the world is a dangerous place, our subconscious just absorbed that as absolute truth. Today, you might be an adult trying to build wealth or take creative risks, but that invisible childhood programming is actively pulling the emergency brake, trying to keep you perfectly aligned with those old beliefs.
Section 3. Scientific cause of negativity. To understand why we default to the negative, you need to meet a tiny bundle of nerves at the base of your brain called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. Think of this as your brain's ultimate bouncer. Right now, there are millions of pieces of sensory data all around you, but your RAS filters out almost all of it, only letting through what it thinks is important to you. And how does it know it's important? By looking at what you focus your thoughts on. This is neuroscience fundamentally proving the law of attraction. You aren't magically summoning things out of thin air, you are programming your RAS to finally see the things that were already there. Think about it like the classic white car effect. Have you ever decided you wanted to buy a specific white car and suddenly you see that exact white car everywhere you go? Did 1,000 white cars suddenly spawn in your city overnight? No way. They were always there, but your RAS was filtering them out as relevant noise. The moment you focused your thoughts on it, your RAS opened the gate. If you constantly focus on problems, your brain will show you problems everywhere. But if you train your brain to focus on opportunities, suddenly you're going to see opportunities everywhere. It's the exact same world, just a completely different reality. But when we don't control the RAS, we fall into a dangerous trap. Rumination. We've all been there, right? One tiny worry pops up, and instead of just letting it go, we chew on it. We roll it around in our minds until it snowballs into a giant catastrophic crisis. The science actually shows us that rumination doesn't just ruin your mood. Keeping your body in that constant state of cortisol production literally leads to severe anxiety and real physical illness.
Section 4. How to rewire the mind. Okay, so here's a super simple, practical, 3-step process to instantly neutralize a negative thought. Step 1. Recognize. When a toxic thought enters, don't identify with it. Step back and say, oh, I'm having a negative thought right now. You are the observer, not the thought itself. Step 2. Challenge it. Ask yourself, do I have actual proof that I'm going to fail? Most of the time the answer is no, it's just an old fear talking. And finally, step 3. Change it. Don't just settle for it, this is too hard. Pivot that thought to, this is challenging, but I am absolutely capable of figuring it out.
And this is where we bring out the heavy artillery. Visualization. The most successful people on earth use this technique. Muhammad Ali used to fight his matches thousands of times in his head before he ever stepped foot in the ring. Michael Phelps mentally swam every race perfectly with his coach. Jim Carrey famously wrote himself a $10 million check when he was completely broke and looked at it every single day. Why does this work? Because your brain literally cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined event and reality. When you vividly visualize the steps to your success, you are physically building new neural pathways in your brain, paving the road before you even walk it.
Next up in your toolkit is gratitude. And I know you've heard this a million times before, but let's look at the actual biology. Writing down 3 things you're grateful for every morning isn't just some fluffy, feel-good diary entry. When you practice active gratitude, you force your brain to release dopamine and serotonin. You are quite literally hacking your own brain chemistry to start the day in a state of positive energy. Plus, remember the bouncer? You're recalibrating your RAS to look for abundance rather than lack.
Now let's talk about affirmations, because a lot of people do this completely wrong. Consider the stark contrast between 2 approaches. A traditional affirmation might be, I am very rich. But if you're currently struggling to pay rent, your subconscious mind is going to violently reject that statement as a total lie. It creates mental friction. Instead, you need a bridging affirmation. Try saying something like, every day I am building habits that move me closer to financial freedom. It's believable, it bypasses your brain's defense mechanisms, and it safely updates your subconscious programming.
Section 5. Your daily mental diet.
To protect your mind from the constant noise of the world, you need to develop what psychologists call the response gap. This is that split-second pause between something happening to you and how you react to it. And the absolute best way to widen that gap is through meditation. And please, frame this not as some religious practice, but purely as a mental workout. By just sitting for 5 minutes a day, focusing on your breath, and watching your thoughts without judgment, you are training your brain to stop running on pure reactive autopilot. You're taking the steering wheel back.
Which brings our garden metaphor full circle. Your mind is the rich soil, but you have to be incredibly protective of what you are planting in it every single day. The books you read, the news you consume, the people you surround yourself with, the media you listen to. These aren't just passing entertainment. They are seeds. Every piece of media is an input that is either watering the flowers of your potential or fertilizing the weeds of your anxiety.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, provocative question. What seed will you plant in the garden of your mind today? You now know the science. You know your thoughts create your chemistry creates your actions, and your actions create your entire reality. You have the power to challenge your subconscious, reprogram your RAS, and bridge the gap to a completely new identity. The power is entirely yours. Choose your next thought wisely. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.